Hello, everybody, and welcome to this new episode of Magic and Miracles with your host, Dr. Jennifer Schluter. And today I am here with JP, and he has quite an interesting story of magic and miracles. So, why don't you get into that? And why don't you tell us your most incredible magic and miracle story right now?
Wow, welcome. Okay, thank you, Dr. Jennifer. My story of magic and miracles. I guess my story starts as a 35-year-old man with a little boy who I couldn't pick up because I was in so much pain that I was taking 33 pills a day and I was riding around in a mobility scooter just to get around. And I was telling my friends at the time, I'm waiting around to die at the age 35. I was seeing a doctor in the palliative care unit. And for those who know, palliative care is where you go when you're near the end of life or when your quality of life is so poor that you just need someone to be there, to support you, to talk to you, to try and cheer you up. Usually it's reserved for people 80, 90, not 35-year-olds. So that was then. And I guess the magic might have been discovering another doctor named Joe Dispenza who said to me, are you giving your power away to a doctor just because they're a doctor? And I thought about it and I said, yeah, I am. I'm just taking all these pills. They're not helping me. I'm useless to my friends and family, and I'm going to stop. And that moment of surrender and that decision to stop changed the trajectory of not only my lives, but the lives of everyone I know, my family, and most importantly, my children. So I went from riding around in a mobility scooter, and I would tell you that yesterday was my 46th birthday. Now, here's some other magic. It goes included to the first magic. I guess I got to tell you first that I got out of the mobility scooter, I stopped taking the pills, and I started running. And I just started with running 100 meters and then 200, 400, 800, a kilometer, 2 kilometers, 5 kilometers, 10, 20 kilometers. Eventually, started running marathons, 42.2 kilometers. So when I turned 45 last year, my goal was to run 45 kilometers. What more magical way to celebrate a birthday than by setting ridiculous intentions? Now, it just so happened on my birthday, there was a marathon. And I set out to run this 42.2 plus another 2.8, 45 for 45. I didn't make it. I finished the marathon barely, but I didn't get to 45. So the dream kind of got put on the back burner. I totally kind of forgot about it. But anyway, the very last possible day that I was 45, there was another marathon in the same place, Niagara Falls. And I went back and I did the marathon and then I did the extra 3 kilometers and I did 45 kilometers on the last day that I was 45. Now, the magic of that story is obvious. The guy went from a mobility scooter to running marathons. And that's almost my old story. Now my new story is like, what are we gonna do? As I was changing my shoes in the parking lot and making weird noises and feeling parts of my body that I've never felt before, there was a guy there who saw me doing this extra 3 kilometers around the parking lot, and he said, "Dude, you're next level." And I told him the story, and then he understood it a bit more. And then he said, so does that mean that every year you're going to add a kilometer? And I said, yeah, at least until I'm 65.
I love
So
it.
that's
So good. And
so
so
that's just one of them.
So tell us a bit more about when you were in the mobility scooter, about that moment, like when you said, okay, I need to change something, right? I'm not going to give my power away to a doctor. Do you remember that moment? What did you feel? Where were you? Do you remember that moment? And tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so it mixes in with a bit of a spiritual awakening or a midlife crisis, whatever you want to call it. But I guess it was a slow decision. It wasn't a decision that I made right away. It was a slow progression. And I was into mobility studio when I was 35, but this actually transition happened when I was about to turn 40. So as I started about to turn 40, I'm sitting there going, man, I have this 5-year-old boy. He's so beautiful, and I can't even pick him up, and I'm not very helpful. And a bunch of weird things, magical things started happening all at the same time. So this was probably early 2019, but I didn't get one of my scripts, my medications for a week. Like I couldn't get the doctor to fill it. They filled it, then the pharmacy didn't have it. So I just didn't have it, right? And it was 9 out of the 33 pills were from this one prescription. And so I started feeling a little bit more sore. But then a couple weeks later, I actually started feeling a little better. And the biggest thing I noticed was that my memory was stronger. The cognitive effects were gone. And then I said, wait, if I can take 9 out and do this and start, what happens if we keep going? So I started slowly doing that. But as I was doing that, that's when I found Dr. Joe. And that that when he said that to me about, are you giving your power away to a doctor just because they're a doctor? I never thought of it. I just trusted and surrendered, and you're a doctor, you went to school, I have no idea, right? And then when I started to change, I guess you hear this saying all the time, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so that's kind of what happened. But what happened was I started hearing like Joe Dispenza, so he's a neuroscientist, a yogi named Sadhguru, Tony Robbins, motivational speaker, Les Brown, motivational speaker, Jocko Willink, army veteran. I started hearing all these different people from totally different parts of society, and they were all saying the same thing. And that was go inside, get busy with yourself, and ask the questions and shut out all the distractions and see what happens. So then the more I started to do this, it started working. And they also said that too. They said, don't even believe us. Try this. Try this in your own life and see what happens. And it's the experience that once you experience something for yourself, it doesn't matter what me or Dr. Jennifer says. You're experiencing it for yourself, so you have the results. So it doesn't even matter what other people say. You become the evidence. And slowly, this is what happened. I started devouring knowledge, and the guy I was seeing in the palliative care, he asked me, "Do you read books?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was just reading like fiction, like John Grisham, mystery, crime kind of, right? He goes, "Do you ever read nonfiction?" And I kind of looked at him like, "Why would you do that?" And yeah, like not since I was in school. But anyway, I started reading fiction after that. And now or sorry, nonfiction books after that. And I just learned so much. I've probably read 500 books since then. And I don't even read fiction. Sometimes at like Christmas or holidays, I'll take one of those books. But that was just another part of it. And so then there was meditation that came into it. And literally trading in the pills for supplements and vitamins, and it's all mindset. So I learned what a growth mindset was. I had a fixed mindset my whole life. I don't blame myself for it. I can see now that a lot of people around me still have that mindset, which is that's on them. But yeah, I decided I'm not doing this anymore. The boy deserves much better.
Mm. And how, I love that you ended with this because my next question was going to be, how has your boy taken that? Like, what has he seen in his dad? What has he told you? What has he said to you, like, after your change?
Um, so now he's running 5 kilometer races all the time, and he's 11 years old, and it's just a much better life. I started being like the kid. I started being the father that he needed me to be and jumping around on the trampoline, and I can run and play and live life with my kids. That's the biggest part. So, yeah, even in Niagara Falls on the weekend, these guys did like a 5K, both my kids, and We've already signed them up for two 5K races next year. And for a little kid, that's a lot. That's about 25 minutes of hard running. And it's nice. So in September, they did one. And it's almost like, right, you see it. If you don't see it, you don't know. So they got to see me doing it. And then they're like, oh, this is cool. I want to do that. And my my son came in 24th out of everybody for a 5 kilometer for like adults and everything. And I was like, wow, very cool for an 11-year-old boy.
That is truly amazing. And so, how would you say has his mindset changed in other ways as well, like seeing his dad really getting better?
Yeah, so it's not just that he sees me doing other things, right? I go to Toastmasters, public speaking. I help people all the time. I facilitate groups for chronic pain, anxiety, and depression. And he sees it. And even content, he sees me making content, cool videos, all the transitions, right? And so now he's doing this on his laptop as well. And he's he knows the growth mindset. I think that's the best way to put it is he's not going to have a fixed mindset. He's getting a growth mindset because he gets to see it in their everyday life. Um, Baseball, right? There's a World Series that's happening right now. And I was listening to the manager of the Toronto team yesterday, and he was saying how when he was a little kid, in his neighborhood where he lived, there was a Major League Baseball player who used to just talk to them, hit balls, throw the ball, right? And I'm like, man, I wonder if he doesn't see that guy. Is he in the major leagues right now being a coach? Or does he need you need to see it? So it's more of not what I'm saying, it's more the example that I'm showing. And even when we go to like hockey or my kids do competitive dance, he's a really good tapper, but we'll ask them. I don't say like you did this or you should have done right. I'm like, what went well? What didn't go well? What can we do better next time? And they're articulating it. But these kind of questions are drawing out, adducing out of them the answers because as we both know, doctor, the answers are inside of us. They're not outside of us. So I think the best way to answer that question is that I'm being the example. What is the Gandhi quote? Be the example you would like to see in the world.
Yes. And what would you say, what would you have never learned if you hadn't been in a mobility scooter?
Wow. It's very humbling, right? Because you're, it's such a young age, I feel like 35 to be there. And so I learned that I learned that your diagnosis is not your prognosis.
Mm, yes. And what about yourself? What would you have never learned about yourself?
Wow. I didn't know I could ever run a marathon. I didn't even ever have that on my list. And now it's just like, what else, right? So every time you stretch yourself further than you think you can go, what we focus on expands. And so you can't go back. I don't know if you've ever had a transcendental moment, but there was one time when I was starting to get better. I was like walking. I went to the gym and I would just walk on the treadmill. I would drop my daughter off at preschool and just walk on the treadmill. And I started running after a while. This is after I woke up a bit, but I guess I didn't realize like you can't just run every day. So I was like running every day for a long time, especially if you haven't ran for 20 years. And so I got hurt. And so one day I'm driving her, I dropped my daughter off at the preschool and then I'm passing the gym. I'm like, you know what? I'll just go walk. Like even if I can't run, it's better than nothing. And I literally like limped into the gym, hopped up on the treadmill, and I'm walking. And something happened. I started going through this meditation in my mind and I disappeared. And if you looked at the cameras in the gym, you would see a guy running on the treadmill for 38 minutes. But I don't know where I was because I lost space, I lost time. And all of a sudden, I just came back and I looked at the thing and it was at 43 minutes. I was like, whoa. So when you have experiences like that, there's no going back. And I don't know if you talk about energy world in here, but
Yes,
I've
please.
had too many, yeah, I've had too many experiences to I don't have another explanation for it. And it's happening to me. It's not that I'm watching or listening to a story. It's my own experience, which we can definitely go into a couple if you would like.
Yes, please get us into a few of those. I'm very open to hear those.
All right, great. So there's something called grounding cords. This is just a form of energy and you can connect to yourself. And some people describe it that every time you meet another person, you have an energetic connection with them and a cord is formed. And so my daughter in kindergarten, she got her fingers caught in the door, and a kid closed the fingers in the door. And oh, I could hear her screaming and crying when the school called me. I drove there. She was crying. I took her to the hospital. She's crying. It was during COVID, so we went through all these protocols, screaming, crying. So 3 hours she's screaming and crying, and I couldn't do anything to console her. And then I thought, oh yeah, grounding cords. So in my mind, not out loud, I said her name and I said, "You're safe. Everything's okay. Here's a grounding cord that I'm offering to you. And if you want to take it, go ahead, but you don't have to." And she immediately stopped crying. And I said this in my mind. And so I'm like, I don't know. Do you have an explanation for that?
I mean, the only explanation is that everything is frequency and energy, right? So it works. We don't have to see it.
Right. So another one is I'm at this coaching conference in LA and is the guy did a workshop on Reiki. He didn't call it Reiki. He did a workshop, but he was a Reiki teacher. And he said to the room, "Any here skeptical?" And I put my hand up and I looked around and there was only one other person with their hand up. And I was like, whoa. So the room was like 200 people at least, and there was only me and one other person. So the guy looks at me, he says, "Well, do you think you could be open and have open mind, just listen?" I said, "Yeah, for sure." So then he asked everybody to send energy to someone they know. That person had to be alive. He said, if it's, you can ask your wife for forgiveness, you can ask your boss for a raise, but just send the energy out of your head. Thought energy traveling through space and time, vibrating along in the quantum field until it finds its match. So I caught me off guard. I didn't really have anything to, so I just kind of said the host of this entire coaching conference weekend, I just want to send my energy to that guy, let him know I'm thankful and grateful and that he answered all my questions. So that on the way to LA, I had all these questions of why I was going there, what I wanted. And the host of the event in the opening 20 minutes on stage answered all my questions. And he even talked about the book that I was reading on the airplane. So I wanted to send him my thought energy and let him know, hey, thanks, man. I appreciate you answering all my questions. So I did that. And then the workshop was over and I went back to my hotel room and I'm going to check out of the hotel. And I'm walking towards the elevators and you could hear the ding ding, the doors of the elevators opening. So I run to go around the corner and grab the elevator and I smashed right into the guy. And I was like, whoa, I was just sending you this energy and now here you are. So I didn't even tell him that. At first, I was just like, hey, man, I just want to thank you for this weekend and everything I had on the plane, the same book, and you answered all my questions. And he's like, yeah, thanks. I love hearing that kind of stuff. And then he goes to leave, and I'm like, wait, wait, wait. I just came from the workshop and I sent you my energy, and now here you are. And again, I don't know. Do you have an explanation for that one? That's just, it's so weird.
That is unbelievable. I love that.
Yeah. And then
Another
a
one of those
third,
examples.
yeah. And so one time we're just outside in my house here, and my daughter, she dropped her ice cream. And then my first thought is I need a napkin or a Kleenex to clean it up. It was just a hot summer day, no wind at all. It was just, this hot where the air is just still. And right when she dropped her ice cream, a napkin like floated up from the ground. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
And this goes around for everyone. I had a friend one time. I just had this weird feeling. And I called her. I'm like, "Are you okay? I don't know why I'm calling you, but I feel like I need to call you." She said, "I'm pulled over on the side of the highway right now, having a nervous breakdown." And again, tell me, how does that happen? Like, I've never done that. I've never called that person and thought that way before. Something told me call her, and she needed me to call her, right? Or she needed somebody to talk to her right then, right? So, how about you?
And oh, I've had lots of those as well, and I'm going to be talking about it in the first episode of the podcast. But I definitely had some as well because especially like manifestations. For example, I was in Jerusalem with my friend and we were in an Airbnb and we didn't have anyone that we knew except for the host of the apartment. And we were like, we want to manifest a ride to the place where we were going because we didn't want to walk there because it would take us like a long time. So 3 seconds later, the host knocks on our door. He's like, "Hey, I was thinking you guys may need a ride." And we were like, yes, sure. We do need a ride, actually. So things like that
Wow.
as well that I'm going to be talking about a lot in this podcast as well. So I have a question for you. Would you say that you've always been open to this stuff, or would you say that your experience has opened you up to that?
Yeah, I was the most skeptical. I thought it was all woo-woo and yeah, I was no way. I I live two different lives and you hear I don't know if you know Robin Sharma, but he has a quote that says most people die in their 30s and get buried in their 80s. And I'm like, whoa, that was me. So it's weird, but all this chronic pain. So the reason I was taking 33 pills is because I have a tumor in the sacral nerve root of my spine. And now if we know chakra systems, which I didn't know before, and energy, I can be like, oh, I totally manifested that tumor from emotional trauma and right where it sits and everything. But I feel blessed where I did die when I was still alive. And it's not that I died, but that personality died. I killed off that old personality, that fixed why me, poor me. I literally used to say why me out loud all the time. Why me? Why me? Why me? And then one day I just said, why not me?
That is a powerful switch. Super powerful. And now saying that you manifested your tumor is a like this is full on self-responsibility. And that may trigger a lot of people here on the podcast and outside and who people who you talk to, right? So why are you saying that?
I know that like you have to take responsibility. One of the things that happened when I woke up or had a spiritual awakening, I ended up writing a book. And it's really just all my blog posts put together into a book. And there's four different series, but the first one is called 12 Steps to a Spiritual Awakening. And step four is take responsibility for everything. And it doesn't matter if you did it or not, if it's right or wrong. Just take responsibility anyway. And then you're not giving your power away. So I used to be a victim. Like I said, I was living this victim mindset. I didn't even know what a growth mindset was. But one of the ways to change your situation is by taking responsibility. Because the truth is like the life circumstances, everything happening outside, it's the same. It's your perception of how you view it is different. And I think Albert Einstein said the most important question you can ever ask yourself is whether you believe you live in a friendly or a hostile universe. So he's saying it's a choice, it's a belief, and we literally get to make it up. And it's like that, right? Like traffic is easy. If someone cuts you off while you're driving, you can respond by freaking out, or you can just have compassion and be like, I hope that guy's okay. Exact same thing happened. The car cut you off. It's how you perceive it.
And which trauma would you say has caused that tumor?
So there's a lot, right? I had a rough childhood. I was in group homes when I was six, messed up. There's a part of Toronto, the east side of Toronto called Scarborough. And I could honestly, like, if you picked an intersection of streets, I can tell you a story about a gun. Like it's crazy. Not and like all over, right? And so I just seen too much stuff that little kids shouldn't see. I was on my own when I was 16, and you could probably start even earlier, right? Parents divorced. Um, I think that it wasn't just my parents. I think the whole society was like, let's drink all the time and we'll drive with our kids and we'll blow smoke in their face and all this dumb stuff that society used to think was okay. But yeah, you could probably go back to when I'm 8 and my parents separated, and then later on I turned into a rebel or a bad kid or whatever you want to label that as. And then I get kicked out of my mom's house. I go to my dad's, he kicks me out. So then fear of abandonment, everywhere you look, it's you're finding evidence of that. And then you lived in a group home and then just fights. One time I was at a bar and the whole place got shot up and like bullets, like you could hear them whizzing past my head. And those are kind of things that people shouldn't see. Those are for the movies, I think.
And not even that. If if you put that into your head as well, like, wow,
Right.
that's a lot. What would you say has given you the strength and the resilience to go through all of that? Because obviously it was a process, right? And you mentioned that part of it was your son, but at the same time, like, what has given you the emotional strength and resilience to move through whatever it is that you moved through?
Yeah, like the tagline for my company is your story is your superpower. So one of the things that happened early in that awakening was I went to a Tony Robbins event and he said like, how can you take the worst thing that's ever happened to you and make it the best thing? And I had to go through a list of, what's the worst thing? There's quite a few, but it was obviously my pain story, the tumor. And so slowly I started thinking, yeah, we're going to turn this around. We're going to make this a leaping pad, a jumping pad to something greater. And I'm going to take this story and I'm going to go around and inspire people. I'm going to help myself. And I want to live till I'm 92. So if I want to live till I'm 92, then there's going to be certain things I need to do between now and then. And the marathon is such a beautiful metaphor for life because it's the same thing. If you want to do that marathon, you can't just get up. Maybe young people, maybe in your 20s you could probably do this, but you can't just get up and run a marathon. You have to train for it. And if I set a goal right now that next year I want to run a marathon, then between now and then, I'm going to have to do certain things. And that's like eating right, sleeping right, and training. And by setting these goals way off in the future, even if they're ridiculous and you're like, it's not reachable, it drives your behavior between now and then. So I want to run a marathon, then I'm going to have to start at, I don't know, 5K, then I'll do 10K, 12, 21, and you slowly work your way up. But it's almost like the medal at the end or the marathon day itself isn't even the thing. That's like the end. That's where you go to get a little, here's a medal I got, right? Woohoo! You get a medal for all the hard work you did. So the marathon itself is nothing, and it's a metaphor for life because that's life. Where you want to end up, that's not actually the place that's going to make you happy. What's going to make you happy is the whole journey that it took you to get there. And so I turned my pain into purpose, and now I go around helping people. I speak to inspire, and the feedback is really good.
Tell us more about what you do now. Who are you now, and what do you do now?
Yeah, so I'm a performance coach, and that could be anything. I work with C-suite executives who are trying to get up to the next level. And as you've heard, I work with people who live in chronic pain. And to be honest, those are the people who I like their story even more because they're definitely where I was, and their victim mindset and they don't believe in themselves. The CEO story is great, but those people kind of already believe themselves, and now we're just setting goals and we're just checking off, okay, did you do the thing? Okay, good. Let's go towards the goal. The pain group is much different because they have no motivation. They have no one they see. Their whole life is just pain and misery. And so I don't know if you know what agoraphobia is, but it's a fear of leaving your house. So there was one girl in our group who was scared to do that. Now she's gone back to school to be a social worker and she's like in a classroom with people. Another girl was a couple years ago, she was retrofitting her house because she was thinking she was going to end up in a wheelchair. And so now this girl goes to the gym 5 times a week and I can't even get her to slow down. But yeah, but the craziest part about all of those is I've been going and saying the same thing just in a different way for years to this group. And some days I'm like, I don't even think anyone's listening to me. And then all of a sudden you hear the story. I've been going to the gym and now she's going more and more. And it's just like, wow, that's so inspiring. So, yeah, like when you go in the gym and you see those big, buff, jacked up dudes, that's not the inspiration. The inspiration is like somebody who's in a wheelchair or someone who's 80 years old and they're at the gym. Those are the people who inspire me.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And so, what would you say to people who want to call in more magic and miracles into their lives? What do they need to do? Who do they need to be? What do they need to think and feel? What would you say to those people?
Yeah, and it's who do you want to be? And this is the big one. I think it amazes me how many times I ask somebody, "What's your dream?" And they just say, "I don't know." I'm like, "What?" I don't know. So what do you mean? Well, nobody ever asked me that before. Like, oh, okay. Here's a magic wand. What do you want? So that's the first question you would ask somebody is, what do you want? Not what do you have, not what do you think you can do. What do you want? If you could do anything you want, if time wasn't an issue, money wasn't an issue, people weren't an issue, what would you do? And I would also say, do you know SMART goals? Obviously, you know what SMART goals are. I would say make some stupid goals too. So, SMART goals, for those who don't know, are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. And if you have these five elements, you should be able to say, okay, that goal is doable, or it's definitely not. Maybe the time bound part is the only part we can't control because time doesn't exist. But add some crazy goals to your list. So I think it's the I don't know, is it Larry Page or the other guy? One of the guys at Google, he tells his employees to make a list of goals and to make 25% of them not reachable. So when you make your list of goals, make sure that a quarter of the goals you're listing, you're not even going to be able to reach. But what happens when you shoot for the moon, you might just get the stars. So let's say one of them is I have some ridiculous goals on my list. And look at that one, the 45K. Like that's a ridiculous goal, but it happened. So I guess the idea with you make smart goals, list as many as you want, but make some silly goals as well. And who knows what'll happen. It's almost like the universe is waiting for you to put your order in. And if you don't tell the universe what you want, all that's going to happen is you're going to end up with whatever's left for everyone else.
So, tell me about your silly goals. Tell me three of them. I want to hear now. I'm curious.
Yeah, so I want to speak to inspire at least 8.2 million people. I want to run the Boston Marathon, which is a really ridiculous one because you have to qualify by a certain speed or time, and I'm nowhere near the time that I need to get in there. And then, like I told you, I want to live till I'm 92. So part of my affirmations every morning is that I'm grateful that I transitioned from this life at the age 92, surrounded by family and friends.
What's the number of 92? Why 92? Why not 93 or 91?
Yeah, so these are just more details. Same with the 8.2 million. Someone's like,
Yes.
why do you want to speak to 8.2 million people? It's just more detailed. I'm giving the universe a better description of what I want. And manifesting can happen really quick. Sometimes it does, like the ice cream where the thing just put it up. For the most part, the universe is going to need a minute, right? If we took 40, 30, 50 years to get where we are, it's not going to change overnight. It does change when you the second you make that decision, but the progression is going to take a while. So for me to say I want to speak to 8.2 million people, now the universe is going to go to work on figuring out how to get that for me, how to give that to me. And it might take time. So, yeah.
I
How
love
about
it.
you? You have any of those crazy dreams?
I have so many that I don't know how the universe is going to put all of them together. So they're going to fit all of them together. So it's going to fit all of them together. So, for example, like, one of them is owning a wildlife game reserve in Southern Africa
Nice.
with like lions and rhinos and all of that, which is a dream. I'm like, yeah, it would be cool if it happened, but even if it doesn't, it would still be cool. Then there's so many. Definitely more
Yeah.
books that are around the corner and just things that don't really fit together. But at the same time, I want to have a house by the ocean. At the same time, there's other places where I want to have homes in, and I'm like, where? How? How is all of that going to happen?
Les Brown says the how is none of your business, that your job is to dream.
Exactly. Thank you for that reminder. That is true. That is so true. JP, this
I'll
was
give you
so.
another one if you want.
Yes, okay. Give it to me.
So it just remind me when I'm thinking of Les Brown, I'm like, I want to be a motivational speaker like that. And so I decided I want to be a motivational speaker, but I had no way of knowing when or how. Um, so then I'm like, I better go to Toastmasters and practice speaking. So after about a year of going to Toastmasters, the host of the Toastmasters is, hey, do you mind coming and sharing your story to a group of business leaders in the community? So he runs this organization called Rotary. I don't know if you have it where you
Yeah.
are, but anyway, he told me come and give my motivational speech. And so at the time when I had the dream, I didn't even know this guy. But there is a universe working on it and saying, okay, you want it? Here you go.
So what happened then?
So then I got to go and give this motivational speech to a bunch of business leaders in the community. And it was just like, wow, unbelievable.
And that's how fast it can go sometimes, right? Here's another magic and miracle manifestation that came true. I love it.
Yeah, I would suggest people just start by manifesting a feather or maybe a cup of coffee.
Mm.
Save the $1 million in the Ferrari for later.
Something easy to build proof and to build credibility. And then when you have that, then you can manifest bigger things. Yes.
Yeah.
And is there anything else that we haven't talked about yet that you wanted to mention or that you wanted to share or some final words that you wanted to leave the audience with?
Yeah, for sure. I have a podcast for body, mind, and spirit. It's called the Phase 4 Podcast. You can type that up anywhere. My company is called the Next Steps Academy, and we're doing performance coaching. And I also have a bunch of online courses. One is a 12-week artist Tao journey. It's a mix of two books, The Artist Way by Julia Cameron and The Tao Te Ching. And I've turned it into a 12-week course where we meet once a week. We start with a meditation and then come out of the meditation into a journal prompt, a lesson, and then a question and answer. I also have another 8-week journey called the 6 phase protocol. That's for meditation, and it's the same style. We'll go through each step of the 6 phases. You can find all of those in my link tree. Another one is a workshop I'm bringing up in January. It's called How to Start a Podcast in 2026 with No Experience. And I'll give you my link tree, but you can go find me anywhere at Next Steps. So on Instagram, YouTube, Linktree, Next Steps. That's me.
Awesome. Thank you so
I'm always
much. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm always looking for the next steps. And when I built my company, I wasn't running, but it's so cool that that's a part of it now.
That is incredible. The name of it and how it all worked out and how you're taking the next steps and how you're taking the marathon steps and all of that. I love that. Everything just fits together. So I really want to thank you for coming onto this podcast, for your time and your wisdom and your energy, and for sharing all of your magic and miracles with us. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Dr. Jennifer, and thank you for everything you do. It's so important. Thank you.
Thank you.